So imagine for a second that you just walk into a modern yoga studio.
Yeah.
You know the exact vibe I'm talking
Oh,
about.
absolutely. The bamboo floors, the ambient flute music playing in the background.
Right, and everyone is wearing perfectly color-coordinated athletic wear. The instructor is sitting there talking about, like, sacred intimacy and opening your heart to the universe.
Yeah, it's very glossy, very safe.
Exactly. It smells like really expensive lavender.
Yeah.
But now, imagine you leave that studio, you take a wrong turn down a hallway, and you just walk into this dimly lit, ancient stone temple.
Quite a pivot.
Total pivot, because suddenly you are staring at this ancient statue of a multi-armed goddess,
Mm-hmm.
and she's standing on a human corpse. She's holding a severed head in one hand and drinking blood from a skull bowl.
Yeah, I mean, that is the ultimate spiritual whiplash right there. The gap between those two images is just monumental.
It is. And yet, both of those things are technically labeled Tantra.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, I feel like the public imagination has had absolutely no middle ground when it comes to this word.
No, none at all.
You either have this highly commodified, westernized relationship coaching version, right?
Right?
Or you have this terrifying, shadowy occultism. So today, in this deep dive, we are taking a swan dive directly into that shadowy corner.
Which is frankly the more interesting corner.
Totally. We are bypassing all the incense and the lifestyle brands to explore the actual unvarnished source code of this ancient practice.
Which is really necessary because when you just glance at the raw original imagery, like you mentioned with the skulls, it violates every single expectation we have of what, modern spirituality is supposed to look like. It just looks incredibly dark.
It really does. And our guide for this exploration is a fascinating profile of a practitioner named Osman. He's also known as the blind Muslim yogi.
Right.
And what's cool is we're pulling from a video transcript about him, which hilariously the auto captions title is Tundra, part of satanic rituals.
Auto captions, they really try their best.
They do. But this man is not just some dusty academic translating old texts in a library. I mean, he has half a century of advanced, intense, practical experience.
Yeah, 50 years is no joke.
Not at all. So our mission today for you, the listener, is we are going to completely remap your understanding of the spirit. We're going to explore this concept of spiritual biohacking, and we're going to dismantle the idea that these terrifying ancient practices are somehow satanic.
And honestly, the satanic label is actually the perfect place to start because Osman tackles that accusation head on.
He doesn't shy away from it.
No, not at all. He doesn't try to soften the blow or pretend the visuals aren't jarring. He openly acknowledges that the deities associated with this path, like the great wisdom goddesses, are objectively frightening.
Yeah, I mean, they're literally holding weapons.
Right, weapons. They're surrounded by cremation grounds, the whole 9 yards.
So historically, that aesthetic created a massive culture clash, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Particularly during the British occupation of India, you really have to picture these colonial forces, specifically Victorian British officers, who came from this highly orderly, sanitized Protestant background.
Where religion is very polite.
Exactly. To them, religion was clean, it was quiet, it happened in a church on Sunday. And then they walk into a traditional temple and see an altar covered in red powder depicting a goddess in the middle of a chaotic, visceral battlefield.
That must have been a shock.
It completely clashed with their cultural sensibilities. They observed this raw ferocity and immediately categorized the entire practice as satanic.
And let's be honest, it wasn't just paintings and statues that triggered that reaction. The source material mentions these older lineages, like the 64 Yogunis.
Right, the 64 Yogunis.
Yeah, and historical accounts describe rituals involving actual human remains. They would use a human skull, which, to be fair, they had the family's permission to use, but they used it as a vessel for spiritual energy.
Which is intense.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because even knowing the historical context or knowing they had the family's permission, a modern human brain is hardwired to look at corpse decapitation and put it squarely in the evil bucket.
It's a natural reaction.
Right. It triggers a primal alarm. It just screams danger. How on earth does Osman defend that as a positive spiritual practice?
Well, what's fascinating here is how Osman flips that exact visceral reaction on its head with something we could call the scary spoon logic.
Scary spoon logic.
Yeah, he asks you to look at the mechanism instead of the surface. So think about a spoon. If someone hands you a spoon made out of carved bone and it's covered in spikes and painted to look terrifying, your immediate reaction is fear.
Yeah, I'm not putting that anywhere near my mouth.
Exactly. But what does the spoon actually do?
I mean, it just holds soup.
Precisely. Its function is to feed you. The aesthetic might be terrifying, but the function is purely nourishing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Osman argues that outsiders completely conflate the ferocity of the imagery with malicious intent. Within the framework of Tantra, that terrifying aesthetic is not aggressive toward the practitioner. It's actually a profound protective mechanism.
Like a guard dog.
Right. It's designed to guard the sacred space and deliver very specific, potent, energetic nourishment.
So we are judging the scary spoon for being ugly while completely ignoring the fact that it's just trying to feed us. I actually love that framing.
It's a great way to look at it.
But, I mean, it does raise a massive follow-up question. If this terrifying energy isn't demonic and it isn't satanic, where does it actually live? Because the aesthetic screams underworld.
To understand that, we have to look at how Osman maps out the geography of the spirit. He basically divides existence into three overarching tiers.
Okay.
There is the middle world, which is our physical reality. This is where you and I are sitting, where the listeners, commuting or doing the dishes right now.
Paying bills.
Paying bills, exactly. Then you have the lower worlds. And above us, the higher planetary systems.
Right. And normally, if we hear lower worlds, we just think of hell. We think of mindless, floating clouds of evil looking to possess someone in a horror movie.
Exactly, the Hollywood version.
But Osman's description of the lower worlds is wild.
It is highly structured. He doesn't view the lower worlds as abstract realms of suffering. He describes them as the domain of real, intelligent entities, like Rakshasas and Asuras.
Okay.
But the key detail is that these aren't just chaotic monsters. They are incredibly complex civilizations. We are talking about societies with hierarchies, social structures, and, foreign policy.
Wait, back up. Are we talking about literal demon bureaucrats with filing cabinets?
Pretty much.
How does a modern practitioner even interact with that concept?
It sounds like science fiction, I know, but Osman takes it very literally. In fact, he occasionally acts as a sort of spiritual diplomat.
Diplomat for demons.
Yeah. When someone comes to him suffering from a severe spiritual curse, he describes lowering his own consciousness to enter those lower portals. He essentially has to negotiate with these entities to lift the blockage. It is literally an administrative transaction in the lower worlds.
So what does this all mean for the scary goddesses with the severed heads? If there are literal demonic entities running bureaucracies down in the basement of the universe, where does Tantra fit in?
This is the pivotal distinction that clears the whole thing up. Osman is unequivocal about this. Tantra does not operate in the lower worlds.
Oh, really?
Not at all. It exists entirely in the higher worlds, the absolute penthouse of spiritual geography. The satanic label only applies to vectors of energy that pull you downward into those possessive lower realms.
Okay.
Engaging with these terrifying tantric deities is actually an upward transcendental vector. It is designed to pull your consciousness up.
Ah, I see. So it's like the bouncer standing at the door of the VIP club might look huge and terrifying, but he's guarding the penthouse, not the basement.
That is a perfect way to conceptualize it.
Okay, that clarifies the direction the energy is moving. But how does this abstract cosmic map actually affect me or, the listener sitting in traffic right now? How does an ancient goddess pull someone's energy upward?
This brings us to what we can call the physiology of the soul. Osman argues that these terrifying figures aren't just myths you read about in a dusty book. They are essentially anatomical keys.
Like actual tools.
Exactly. It's a form of spiritual biohacking. These cosmic forces, specifically the 10 Mahavidyas, which are the great wisdom goddesses, are mapped directly onto the human chakra system.
Let's walk through that mechanism, because if these goddesses are like software programs designed to hack the body, I want to know what they're actually doing to the hardware.
Sure. Let's trace the progression of energy as it moves upward. At the very base of your spine, the root chakra, you have the energy of survival. This is the foundation.
Right.
As you pull that energy up, it has to pass through different gates of human experience. When it reaches your solar plexus, which is your center of willpower and action, it encounters a goddess named Bagalamukhi. She is known as the paralyzer.
The paralyzer. I mean, that does not sound like a positive upgrade to my willpower.
It doesn't, right, not until you look at her function. In the traditional imagery, Bagalamukhi is depicted grabbing the tongue of a demon to silence it.
Okay, grabbing the tongue.
Now, apply that to the physiology of your own mind. If the solar plexus, your will, what is the biggest obstacle to acting on your true will?
Oh, self-doubt. The inner saboteur that talks you out of absolutely everything.
Exactly. Bagalamukhi is the energetic software that paralyzes your internal enemies. She grabs the tongue of your own self-doubt, and silences the noise, allowing your true will to function unobstructed.
Okay, that makes total sense as a psychological tool. It hits the mute button on your insecurity.
Exactly.
But then the energy moves up into the heart chakra.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the system completely loses me.
Why is that?
Because when I think of the heart, I think of love, compassion, warmth. But the goddess mapped to the heart is Dhumavati. And Dhumavati is depicted as an ugly, starving widow riding a chariot with no horses.
Right.
Why on earth is the ultimate symbol of grief placed squarely in the center of love?
It feels like a contradiction because modern culture has completely sanitized the concept of the heart. We think of Hallmark cards and shallow positivity.
Right. Lots of pink and red hearts.
Exactly. But think about what profound, unconditional compassion actually requires. Dhumavati represents the void. She represents loss, deep suffering, and absolute grief.
Okay.
If your heart can only hold on to happy, light emotions, it's a fragile heart. It lacks spiritual maturity.
So it just shatters the moment it encounters real tragedy.
Yes. To have a fully open heart, you must have the capacity to hold immense suffering without being destroyed by it. Dhumavati is the resilience of a spirit that can stare directly into the void of human tragedy, feel the depths of that sorrow, and still find divine connection.
Wow.
She teaches the heart how to survive the fire.
That reframes compassion completely. It is not about ignoring the pain of the world. It's about building the capacity to digest it. I really appreciate that.
It's powerful.
But as the energy moves up from the heart, it hits the throat chakra. And here's where it gets really interesting. Because if the grieving widow was tough, the throat chakra is mapped to a figure named Chinnamasta. And she is hands down the most visually jarring entity in this entire pantheon.
Oh, she is the self-decapitating goddess.
Yes. She is depicted standing there, holding her own severed head in her hand. And blood is just spurting out of her own neck in 3 streams, feeding her severed head and her attendants.
It's quite the image.
On the surface, this is pure, unadulterated gore. It looked like a heavy metal album cover. How is this a tool for spiritual elevation?
Again, we have to use the scary spoon logic and look at the function. The throat chakra is the bridge between the compassionate heart we just talked about and the head.
Okay.
It is the center of pure expression and absolute truth. Now, what is the single biggest barrier to experiencing pure truth in your daily life?
The intellect. Just the constant, unending chatter of my own brain overthinking every little detail.
The overthinking mind, the ego, the intellect that constantly categorizes, judges, and analyzes. Chinnamasta represents the ultimate severing of that ego. The terrifying image is actually a profound technology. It is explicitly designed to shock your thinking mind into complete silence.
It is a visual circuit breaker.
That is a brilliant way to put it. It is not about literal violence. It is about the redirection of life force or prana.
Right.
By symbolically cutting off the limiting rational mind, you allow pure truth to flow unobstructed from the deeply mature heart straight up into the higher realms of consciousness. You cannot think your way into enlightenment. The intellect has to be severed for the spirit to rise.
And once that intellect is out of the way, the map just keeps going up into realms that are almost hard to articulate. The source talks about the third eye burning away comfortable illusions.
Right, with Bhairavi.
Yeah. And the crown chakra expanding into infinite cosmic space.
And it eventually reaches states known as samadhi, which is a state of superconsciousness. If you've ever had a moment where the boundary between where you end and the rest of the room begins just dissolves, that is a glimpse of samadhi.
Oh, wow.
Osman maps these ultimate states to the highest goddesses, culminating in the ultimate void, the source of everything.
Which brings us back to the man himself. Because tracing this map is fascinating. But Osman isn't just drawing diagrams on a whiteboard. His personal resume bridges the extreme ends of ancient mysticism and modern practical application.
Definitely.
He achieved his first state of samadhi at the age of 19. And he has been actively practicing for 50 years.
And the intensity of that practice is staggering. He speaks about the concept of sharpening the sword. For years, he was doing these energetic practices for up to 18 hours a day.
18 hours a day, just cultivating this energy.
Yep.
And now, he says he's scaled it back to a casual 8 to 10 hours a day, just to maintain his edge.
He describes his own nervous system as a battery. By dedicating half a century to these upward vectors of energy, he has accumulated a massive amount of internal voltage.
Right.
And the modern application of this is what makes him so unique. He doesn't just sit on a mountain with this energy. He uses this cultivated bioenergy to intervene in critical medical care, aiding in recovery and working with terminal illnesses.
He is literally taking the ancient software of the Mahavidyas and using it to reboot failing human hardware.
Exactly.
And what I find endlessly fascinating is his modern methodology. He operates almost like a mystical version of a Silicon Valley biohacker. If you go to his YouTube channel, he gives away incredibly dense, highly effective 5-minute protocols for free.
Right, making it accessible.
He is completely democratizing the knowledge.
Yeah.
But if you want him to directly intervene using his battery of accumulated voltage, that is a premium service.
He has structured it in a way that respects the immense cost of his own time and energy. But amidst those premium services, there is one offering that perfectly captures how he bridges the ancient and the modern.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
He offers a 10-minute telepathic anxiety fix for $5.
I am still trying to wrap my head around a $5 telepathic anxiety fix. It sounds completely absurd on the surface. But the source material roots this in the concept of quantum entanglement.
It does.
Let me try an analogy on you. Is it sort of like pairing two Bluetooth devices?
Let's run with that. How do you mean?
Well, if my phone is paired to a wireless speaker, and I slide the volume down on my phone, the speaker's volume automatically drops. There are no wires connecting them. They are just entangled on a specific frequency.
Right.
Is Osman essentially saying that through quantum entanglement, he can momentarily pair his massive, calm battery to a client's frantic nervous system and just turn their volume down remotely?
That is a remarkably accurate way to describe the proposed mechanism. He is using his own stabilized energy field to influence yours from a distance. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it shows how Osman is constantly striving to bridge the science of the body with the science of the soul. He is lowering the barrier to entry. He is acknowledging that a modern person with a job and a family cannot meditate for 18 hours a day. So, he provides a functional workaround.
But it is crucial to mention that he couples all of these bioenergy interventions with a very strict, grounded medical disclaimer.
Absolutely. He is incredibly clear about the boundaries of his work. He states unequivocally that his bioenergy healing is complementary. It is never a replacement for modern allopathic medicine.
Right, you still need a doctor.
Exactly. Medicine treats the physical body, and his work treats the underlying energy to fill in the gaps.
It's a deeply ethical stance, and it grounds this entire wild cosmic map right back into practical everyday reality. Medicine handles the hardware, he handles the software.
Which is really the core theme of this entire exploration. It is a masterclass in looking past the terrifying aesthetics to find the functional reality underneath.
Do not judge a spoon by its spikes. The thing that looks like it's holding an axe or holding its own severed head might actually be the exact psychological tool designed to cut you free from your own suffering.
Beautifully said.
Tantra doesn't hide from the dark, messy, grieving parts of human existence. It uses those heavy elements as the very fuel needed to propel you upward.
It's an elevator going up, utilizing the weight of the human experience as a counterweight.
It is. But that brings me to a final, slightly chilling thought that I want to leave you, the listener, with today.
Okay.
We've spent this entire time talking about the elevator going up. We've talked about Tantra as this conscious, intentional technology pulling you through the upper chakras, past the intellect, and toward higher consciousness. But buried in the source text, Osman briefly drops a very unsettling detail.
Ah, yes. The downward portals.
Yes. He mentions that the root chakra is not actually the bottom. There are 7 chakras located below the root. They're called the Tala chakras, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, and so on.
And those are the access points that lead back down into those bureaucratic, possessive realms of the lower worlds.
Exactly. So here's the question you need to mull over as you go about your day. If it takes conscious, intense, intentional spiritual technology to pull you up the elevator.
What happens when we just go on autopilot?
Exactly. Are modern toxic behaviors acting as an accidental anti-yoga? When we engage in mindless doom scrolling, when we consume outrage for entertainment, when we feed our deep addictions, are we unknowingly pressing the down button?
Wow.
Are we pulling ourselves down into those lower realms of fear and greed without even realizing we've entered the basement?
It implies that spiritual gravity is a real force. If you aren't intentionally climbing, the default trajectory might be a slow, steady slide downward.
Something to keep in mind the next time you feel your own internal volume starting to spiral out of control. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the surface of things. Don't be afraid to embrace the darker parts of your own existence, and we'll see you next time.